So I welcome you all on behalf of Association of Muslim Professionals to AMP Web Talk. Association of Muslim Professionals is a non-profit organization and is registered in India, United States of America, United Kingdom, and Australia. AMP has completed its 12 years in serving our community in the field of education, employment, and empowerment. AMP has a vision to positively impact lives of 10 million people by the year 2030. AMP's mission is to empower the underprivileged for the greater benefit of the society and nation as a whole. AMP's vision is to be a model community which is advanced in education, socially progressive, culturally vibrant, politically influential, and economically dynamic. What AMP has achieved in these past 12 years is right in front of you all in the slide. You can just have a look at it so that you can understand our achievements, what projects we do, what activities under these projects we conduct. We have school development programs. We also have employment assistance cell. We have a project on scholarships and self-employment. AMP has got its resource center with 600 plus career counselors. We do awards and partnerships. So these are the achievements in front of you. These were the main flagship projects where we work towards benefit our community and nation. Apart from that, AMP's presence is as such. On ground, AMP got more than 100 active chapters. We are present in 25 states and 16 countries with more than 6,000 active members. In AMP's online presence, we have 1,25,000 members and professionals who are connected to us through various social media like Instagram, Facebook, Google Groups, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you wish to join Association of Muslim Professionals, you can just log on to www.ampindia.org/joinamp, and we will be glad to have you on board with us.
Thank you, Mira. I hope I'm audible. I'll not take much of your time before the speaker starts. So this is an initiative that has been taken up by AMP Hyderabad. So AMP we wanted to do some activities around technical programming, because we realized that Hyderabad is a hub for technical programmers. So that's the reason we are starting some technical series. So this would be the first of its kind, okay, with Python programming. So the speaker of the day is Mr. Salil Tamboli, who is a very active member of AMP Hyderabad, and he has got some rich experience as well in programming language. So he works as a senior software engineer at ZF Group with almost like 5 years of experience just in Python. So we hope that there are 4 sessions that are going to be for this entire series. Today, next Thursday, that is on 23rd, following on 30th, and ending on the 6th of August. So it starts with the introduction and general syntax, which is today, followed by data types and functions next week. Again on 30th, there will be a session on file operations, exceptions, and OOPS part 1. And on the final concluding phase, that is on the 6th of August, that would be on the object-oriented programming on part 2. So we hope that at AMP Hyderabad that you all take advantage of these sessions, and then in between, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box if you want to raise any questions, and the speaker will address those questions. And then at the end of the session, from 8:45 to 9, there will be a Q&A session wherein we would take all your questions and then they would be answered. Thank you so much once again. I welcome you all. And now over to you, Salil Bhai.
Thank you, Saeed Bhai. And first of all, I welcome all of you to the Python Programming Bootcamp session. Good evening. I'm Salil, and like Saeed Bhai introduced, I'm working with ZF India Technology as a senior software engineer in one of the R&D projects. And I have almost 5 years of Python programming experience. So before we start our today's Python session, let me clear some points. Like this session, we will be having it completely, it will be a completely hands-on session. So it will be very good and helpful to you if you have a computer with you and which has Python installed in it. And if it is not there, we will set up in coming few minutes. But it will be good if you have computer with you right now, so that you can do hands-on and whatever things we will be doing in the session, you'll be able to do that with yourself. Also, I would like to know, please comment in the chat box, like how many of you are from the computer background? How many of you are from computer background, or like just like you started Python programming, you're from the beginning, or okay, fair amount. And how many of you are the just the Python learners, for the like they started learning Python, they are just starting, or they don't know computer background, but they want to learn Python? Okay, fair amount. So before starting, I would like to let you all know that this would be um, uh, this session would be focused on the first time Python learners, beginners, and there will be a few key points which will be uh, helpful to everyone, whether they are intermediate programmers or they are just learning. But it would be completely focused on the first time learners, beginners who want to start with the Python. We'll be covering, we'll be providing the base to the individual, so that they can individually program in the Python without any guidance. Okay, so let's start with the session. So I hope all of you have Python installed with you. Just let me know if you don't have Python installed. Okay, let's set up your environment first. So what you have to do is, can you see my screen?
Yes, Salil bhai.
Yeah. So what you have to do is, you have to go to Python. So you'll get this Python org link, where you can see in the Python or in the downloads, or you can see there is a Python latest 3.8.4. So yeah, if you have Jupyter Notebook, that's well and good. But those who don't have Python, they can install it from here. This is for Windows as well. If you have Mac, there are versions here. For Linux, Mac OS, Windows. Yeah, it's okay if you have Spider, Jupyter, other implementations of Python. You have Anaconda. That's fine. So once you install the Python, download it. Let's wait for 30 seconds. Then you have to go to, just let me know once you download the Python. Python software is light, so I don't think so. It will log, or it will be logged in your PC. Like there should not be any problem ideally. But those who don't want to install Python, what they can do is they can run Python code online. So what you have to do is you have to type Google Colab. So you will see this first link, colab.research.google.com. So when you go here, click to new notebook. And you will have new notebook here, so that you can run your code here. And after typing your code, you can run it here. So this is completely online. If you don't want to install Python, you can do it in Google Colab. Okay. So those who install Python, what they have to do is they have to first set up the environment path. So you in Windows, you have to type system properties or environment variables and get to this window. Like you have to type environment, edit the system variables. Once you reach to this point, once you reach to this point, you have to go to environment variables like this. Let it be open. Then we'll go to Windows and we'll type IDLE. Just right click on this, whatever option you are getting, go to open file location. Here you will find a shortcut. Again, right click on this shortcut and open file location. So you will be the exact path where you have installed the Python. You can see it here. So there will be two paths. One will be scripts and one will be the Python exe path. So first what you have to do is you have to go into scripts, copy this path. Once you copy this path, minimize this, come here, and as you can see, you will see two sections in environment variables. One is user variables, one is system variables. So in user variables, you have to click on path if you already have that variable, or if there is no path variable, you have to create the path. So give path variable name here, and variable value you have to put scripts, semicolon. Once again paste it and just remove this scripts part. So there will be two paths in this path variable. One will be a path to Python 3.7, which we have installed in our PC, and other will be the path of the scripts of Python 3.7. Okay, variable name. Okay. So you have to search for environment variables. You can see this title here, environment variables. Okay. After that, same thing you have to follow. Once you add the path variable, PATH, P capital, do the same thing for this also. And then save it. So when you open your CMP command prompt, when you type Python, it should enter into, wait a minute. Okay, so just restart the command prompt. You can see if we enter Python, it should go into shell like this. So that means your environment is completely set up for Python and it's ready to use. Okay. So I'll repeat this once again, who are still confused. There are two options. You can download the Python software from python.org/downloads. Download for your system. If you are using Linux, download for Linux, Windows, Mac OS. And if it is not possible for you, what you can do is you can go for Google Colab, where online you can execute the Python code. For Google Colab, you just have to search Google Colab. Then you'll see this first link, colab.research.google.com. And you have to enter here, new notebook. And this will give you new notebook. Is everyone able to see my screen? Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah. So you can add number of code lines here, and you can then write your code here and execute after clicking on this play button. Okay. Yeah, and those who have installed Python, they just have to go to environment variables, edit the environment and system variables. You will get this system property, go to environment variables. Now here in user variables, you'll see path variable, add your Python path there. Or if it is not there, create a new variable named path and add here your Python path here, scripts and without scripts. Follow the same operation here. Add it for path in system variables also. After that, click OK, and you are all set. And yeah, we will be using ideally throughout our session Ideal is the best way and interactive way where we can on the fly uh, can execute the code. So we will be using Ideal. Okay. Is everyone done with the setup? Those problems, they can go to Google Colab as well. That's very easy. Just search for Google Colab. We don't have much time. We can't spend much time here just for setup. So just go to Google Colab, create your notebook. And there you can execute your Python. Okay. It's okay if you have Jupyter notebook or Anaconda or anything. That is fine. If you have any Python distribution, that is perfect. No need to do all this stuff. This is for the people who don't have Python installed in their computer. Okay, so let's start with our session. So we all are here to learn the Python, but have you asked, like, why Python? Is there any reason we want to learn Python or anything else? Or why should learn Python? Why should all learn Python? You know, this is a computer age. We are living in a computer age. So going forward, we will be dealing with the technologies more and more. And in this computer tech age, if you are literate with the computer technologies, it is really good, and it will be very helpful to you. But why Python? Python is very easy language in terms of its syntax, how it can be written, and it is very widely spread across the industry. You can find the smallest of small application which can be run on Python, as well as you can see the largest of applications like very huge websites like Instagram or Facebook, they Google, YouTube, they use Python. So no, it is not necessary to uh, have a computer science background to learn Python, Mr. Shavaz. So Python is really dynamic. It's in last few years, it has been widely spread across the industry. Everyone is using Python, be it web development, be it machine learning, be it simple app development, be it testing. Everyone is trying to use or utilize or take benefit in one or another way of Python. So these are some of the applications which can be run using Python. One is the web and internet development. As I said, internet giants like Google or Facebook, YouTube, they use Python, Instagram. Then there are games which are developed in Python. Scientific and computational applications, like most of the companies like who have scientific uh, study, or they deal with the scientific research, they also use Python in machine learning and collecting data, sorting them scientifically, doing research. NASA does is, yes. So it is also used for language development. There are certain language and distributions which have been developed using Python. Also, it has been used widely in image processing, graphic designing, also in GUI desktop application. You will see a lot of GUI application developed in the Python. So here are the main few Python applications uh, which currently industry uses. Python being used in this kind of developments. And these are some of the companies which use Python in their day-to-day work or research or application development. So yeah, 3.8 would be better, Mr. Rahman. Now let's try to go to the next point. Now, what is Python? So in general, Python is an interpreted, object-oriented, high-level programming language. Now, this is very, there are some heavy words like Python is interpreted, object-oriented, and high-level programming language. So, what does exactly means? So, that is our next point. What is high-level programming? So people who have computer background here, they know that there are some languages which can directly deal with the computer. So consider an architecture where you have levels, and in that levels you can talk to your computer. Basically, all these languages, what they do is they talk with the computer. That's why they are called as programming. You can program your thoughts and you can talk with the machines using your programs. So this way, there are several languages which are low level. And when we say low level, that means they are very hardware specific. That means once you write any code for a typical computer or hardware of a model of a kind, you cannot use that code as it is on another computer. So that is very basic. That is low level. You can directly talk with the computer hardwares uh, using low level programming languages. But since this is very specific to a hardware, people came up with the high level languages like C, C++, Java, Python. So what these languages do is once you write code on Windows machine, suppose you have written a program to print something after you get an input. Uh, the same program you can run with the Linux, you can run with the Macintosh, like the old Macintosh is old, but Mac OS. So so there you don't have to change the Python code at all. You can run the same code everywhere, irrespective of whatever hardware or OS you are choosing. So this is high level of programming language where the computer structure, OS, and all the details, you don't have to worry about them. So those are abstracted from the user. These details have been uh, abstracted from the user, and you can directly code um, in this high level programming languages, and this code can be reused in other platforms, irrespective of what hardware you have or what OS you are running. So this is called as high level programming languages. Python is one of them. This is one of the main reason it is very popular. You can same code can run everywhere. It doesn't changes its form. And then let's come to our next point. What is interpreted language? So this is again a term from the computer science background, but I'll try to explain as easy as possible. So when you write a code in programming languages, the ideal way is you write the code, you save the code, and then you compile a code. The compiled code will generate some computer specific file which can be read by the hardware of that particular computer. So in that way, as soon as you write code, you cannot execute it. You have to compile it, and that compiled output file, you have to run it. So this is like you have to do a lot of steps before you write a code, and in the end you see its execution. So the mean time is big compared to the interpreted languages. So what interpreted language have the advantage is they provide the real interface to you. Suppose I have this ideally. So ideally means integrated development language environment. So that means whatever we write here, it can be executed without really compiling the code. We can execute line one by one. There should not be any file we have to save, and then we have to compile, and then we have to go for its output and check whether it is passing, running, or throwing there. You simply open the IDLE or any Python interpreter, and then you write your code. I'll write your code. Hello. And done. We can on the fly immediately can run the one line code, and it is perfect. Means you don't have to spend more time. Suppose you are in a quick development where you don't have much time to do all this stuff and you have some deadlines. Then what you will do, if you have to do some work which can be done with the interpreted languages, then Python is one of them. You can easily debug the code. You can, whatever error you are getting, you can, let me try to increase the font as some of the people are saying. Yeah, no need to do make file or anything like we do for Linux or for C. C is a completely like compiled languages, and languages like JavaScript, Python, these are scripting languages. So they don't need compilation. I mean, they can be compiled in other way, but as an individual, they don't need anything to, they don't need compilation to execute their code. So simply I can write here a function, I can write a while loop. I will make this true. And it will simply execute this patch of code. Okay, let me increase the options. Increase this font window. So is everyone able to see this? Fine, fine. So this way interpreted languages, or we call them scripting languages, are easy to handle, and the development time generally is less compared to the other languages. Okay. Yeah. So let's move to our next point. Is now we all should start little hands-on. So be ready with that. We'll move to the general syntax. So one of the main thing for Python is its readability. So why Python is most successful? Because it can be read very easily. Suppose let's open a file here. I have opened a new Python file, and let's write some code. I'll write a code using if condition. So we will cover all these conditions, but I just want to show you the examples. If let's say r is equal to 1, if is equal to 1, then print success, else print failure. So to execute this file, we have to save the file first. Saving this in desktop, sample, save, go here and run. So as you can see, this code is executable, and since it works, it is printing success. But what about the indentation? So suppose what I do, I give one little space here. And then if I try to run this, an indent does not match any outer indentation level. That's an error. So print is the default function. This is the functionality Python provides you to see what to print whatever text you have, whatever data you have in your console. So suppose there is a variable and you want to see what is in that variable. So what you have to do is you have to just go here, do print and give the data. Suppose I am giving the data. My name is Salim. So it prints whatever you provides it to you. So this is the functionality of print. As its name suggests, it prints whatever you pass it to it on the console. Okay. So coming back to the indentation, Python is very strict we are supposed to use computer laptop. Okay. So Python is very strict in terms of indentation. It requires it takes indentation very seriously. So if you press only one space, or if the lines are not in format, like suppose I have again one more if here, and I'll write if var is equal to 2, print var is 2, else print is not 2. So you can see the code here is very strictly indented. You cannot see one space here more or one space here less. It is so perfect that one just above, just below this print, you can find this print. So the code has to be very much indented, and Python takes it very seriously. If you miss just one if, suppose I do this, and if I run, it directly throws error saying unexpected indent. So make sure whatever code you're writing, it has it is properly indented, and when you enter into some condition or loop, make sure you have proper spaces, at least 4 spaces. That is the Python standard. You have at least 4 spaces before you write next line of code. Understood? Okay. So this is the indentation of Python. Python takes it very seriously. Next point is how we comment the code. So we are covering this because before we start really coding the Python, we should know its environment. We should know what are the things we do in Python. Yes, Samarth, we will cover double equal to in Python. We will cover all these things. So before that, we will understand how Python works, what is required for an individual to do Python programming in case he wants to avoid errors. Okay. So there is next part is commenting the code. So if we want the code to be executed, if we want the code to be not to be executed, we comment the line by hash. So when I do this, this means that this line of code will not be executed in Python. This line of code will not be executed in Python. Now, if I run this, the first error I will be getting is var is not available. Name var is not defined. Name error. This is because when we commented this code, this line of code is not being considered by Python interpreter. it says that whatever execution of this file or this code I will start from this line, not from this line. So when we uncomment this code, you can see the code is finally executed. Okay. So commenting the code, we do it with the hash. Now there is one more thing we can do by commenting is this thing. Triple inverted commas. Single or double, doesn't matter. So when you write any kind of thing, suppose I'm writing here, okay, this file is created for test purpose. The name of file is sample.py. So the same way, this path will not be considered by Python when you try to execute something, but this is being stored and Python notes down it, and the next time when you try to utilize this can be used. Like when we will start learning the modules in the Python, libraries in the Python, you will understand what I'm talking. There we can write the file description in this way. So this will not be really executed, but this will be taken as some kind of data or description for this file. Comment is not working on Colab, giving output. I need to see Sabir. Let's see. Right. So obviously it will not print because it will not execute this line. It will not do nothing. It will do nothing. So you can see it did nothing because this is a commented code and this is expected behavior. Okay. Yeah. So this is one way we can hide, or we can hide the information in the file before being executed. So I'll write some information here. This is the file, this is that, and I'll keep like this, and Python will not execute this. But this will be stored as a file information, and we will explain this, we will discuss this in detail in upcoming sessions. So there can be two ways. This is not really commenting the file, but kind of hiding, and this is completely comments the code and Python just overlooks it. It doesn't consider this line at all. So whenever you want to comment any kind of code, you just add hash. And if you want multi-level comments, what you have to do is you have to add hash on every line. Okay, so now this file is completely commented, and when we execute this, nothing will happen because there is no code to be executed. Okay, so this is the commenting in Python. Now, as you can see, whatever code we have written here, the short code, it doesn't have any kind of semicolon here because Python does not really require semicolon to be executed. It mostly requires on visual satisfaction as well as indentation. So as the code, you can see it looks very structured and it looks very beautiful in compared. I'll write some code, like if there is a C like code, whatever you can do is hash include this, and then I can write a code in single line like this, and that can be executed in C, but it looks very bad. And yeah, so this looks very bad. So this indentation is Python's you can say specialty, as well as to make the code more beautiful, it avoids semicolons at the end of every sentence of your code. But there can be scenarios where you can use semicolon. So suppose consider this line of code. I am writing if var is equal to 1, print success. So this is the only way. Sorry, not this. So let's see, var 2 is equal to 2, var 3 is equal to 3. So only at some places where where you declare the variables and everything, there you can use semicolon, that is allowed. Otherwise, on other places, semicolons are not allowed. This is probably the only place in Python where semicolons are allowed. You can see the output 2 and 3. We have printed var 2 and var 3. And we have used semicolon in between declaring the two variables. We have assigned value 2 to var 2 and we have assigned value 3 to var 3. So you can see semicolon can be used, but it is mostly avoided in Python. It is almost avoided. Nobody uses semicolon. And it is also allowed on very few places like this. Okay. So coming to the next point is user input. So this is whatever we are doing, it will be Python 3 plus. So before coming to Python 3, there was Python 2, and Python 2 had some kind of you can say user input function like raw input. But as we came to Python 3, raw input has been removed from Python default function. So there is only now input function. So what this input means is you can take user input using this. Suppose I'm writing, suppose consider this line of code. Let's see, okay, please provide your name. And we will assign this to a sample variable named sample. So once again, see this input is a user input default function from Python. We have written some kind of line here, and we are storing whatever input we will be getting into sample named variable. Okay, let's, yeah, it has to look good also. So as you can see, as soon as I executed this line of code, you can see there is one line printed on the console saying, please provide your name. So I'll write Salim T. And yes, nothing happened. But what exactly happened is whatever input I have provided, this is the input from user side. I have provided it. Okay. So when we print sample, you can see whatever user input I have provided, it has gone to the sample variable. So this is the only way you can get the user input in Python. Remember this function? Earlier in Python 2, there was also a function named as raw input, but that has been deprecated. It has been removed in Python 3. So there is a function input only now. Okay, understood till this point? Okay, let's go to the next one. Output. Now, as we are seeing like in a lot of code till this point, whatever we have written, we are using print.
So this is the only way we show our data to the user, or we print our data on the console using print function. So this is a default function. You don't have to include anything or exclude anything to have to write your data into console. So what you have to do is you have to just write print and pass your data. Okay, this is Python session, and it will just print this line. Okay, so user input, when you say you want to take user input in your Python code, you will use input function, which is the default function. And whenever you want to show the data, when you want to print something on the console, what you will do, you will use print functions. Okay, so again, there are several ways. Just see this point. This is important point. Like people who are chatting on the chat window, please focus on this point. This is important point. So there are some ways where you can do the print in different ways. There are several variations. Okay, so let's discuss those variations. Suppose I have a variable called var, and I give some name to it, or let's say emp name. This is my employee name. Let's say John, and emp id is equal to 1 2 3 4. Okay, so we have taken two variables, and here in these variables you can see one is employee name and one is employee id. Okay, so now how we can accommodate these two variables and how we can present them using different variations of print. Let's see. So one simple way is you write your function, and inside this you write employee name, and we will do %s and employee id. We will do %s, and here we will write emp id. So you can see what we have done is, this is one way to use your print functions. What we have placed in the place where we are going to put our employee name and employee IDs is %s, and this %s is followed by the %, and in the order which you want to put here. So first we want to put is employee name, second we want to put is employee name. Let's execute. So you can see we got our data. Employee name is John, as we have put here employee name, and employee ID is 1 2 3 4 as we have given here. So as we can see, this is one way, and this looks, if there are multiple variables, if suppose I have say 10 variables, employee name, employee ID, employee email, employee address, employee phone number, blah blah blah, lot of variables, then it will be very difficult to gather all this employee ID and everything in this bracket. And for that also you have to understand at what index what value is coming. So you can see first name is employee name, that's why we have put employee name, and second name is employee ID, so second we have put employee ID. So you have to remember this, and you have to work a lot with this kind of thing. But if we use f string, which everyone uses now. This is very handy. Our job will be very easy. So let's see how it can be done. And you pass the variable name. That's all. Now, if you closely see this, you can see there is an F before we start our line. So it is called as F string. And yeah, please, you can ask the questions in the last 15 minutes of the session. Let's focus on this session. Whoever has the questions, they can ask me later, but first let's focus on these things. Okay. So this is employee name and employee ID. We can see employee name has been beautifully just put here. And if we execute this, we got our own. So if you compare this thing, you can see the second example is very easy. We can print our output easily without any haste or without any kind of confusion. Here there is a great chance that you will mislead something, and you will, if there is a change in the index, suppose I write employee ID first and I write employee name later, employee name will be 1, 2, 3, 4 and employee ID will be short. So there is a great chance that you can have this. So let's move to the next variation. There is one more variation, but we don't use that much, since it is also like kind of like uneasy, we can say, to the user. And to format. So this is like kind of F string, but the thing is, whatever brackets we have kept empty, like you can see where we want to put our user data, employee name and employee ID, those brackets are same like whatever we are doing here. When we do %s, we are expecting that employee name, the first thing here, will be put on the first place where %s has been mentioned. Second thing is same, like second place and second variable. The same thing you can do is you can put curly braces, empty curly braces, and those empty curly braces will be filled later when you print this data, and it will fetch, and this empty braces, this place will be fetched by employee name. Understood? Same like whatever we covered in the first example, this also requires indexing, means first value, second value, third value, wherever you are expecting it by index 1, 2, 3. It requires its proper place. Okay. So everyone understood the variation in print? Okay. So my suggestion would be like whatever print we will be using, those print we will have to use using F string. So this is called as F string, and these F strings are useful and very handy. Okay. Okay. Let's move to the next syntactical point. Now variables. Now from last half an hour, 1 hour, we are discussing variables. But what are variables? In terms of running a code or executing something, in terms of writing a code, we required containers. You know what is the container? Suppose there is a jar, and in jar we feel, suppose we have something, food, like we have cashews, or we have something like, we have to put biscuits. So in containers we put biscuits, cashews, and we make a container of biscuit, container of cashew. Now that container is different from container of biscuit, because container of cashew contains cashew and container of biscuit contains biscuit. Though the containers of are having same size, but the content inside is different. The same principle applies here when you say we have a variable. The same container is called in the programming language is variable. So this variable, they take the data and store into them. Suppose I have a variable and let's name it var1. Var1 would be something like, let's say John. So now this variable contains value John. Understood? I can also say int value is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this variable int value now contains the value 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see, though these two variables are different, because they store different values, these two variables are of same kind, like these two are variables, they do the same operation, they store the data, but the data is different. That's why they are different. Now this var1 is different from int value because they take different kind of data. So there are certain rules. Let's see the rules. There are certain rules when you define any kind of variable in Python. So first rule is your variable must start with alphabetical letter or underscore. This is very strict. You cannot use other letters, like I am using @ and then I'll say var1 is equal to 1, 2, 3. I cannot use this. This is not allowed. So whenever you are declaring any name, whenever you are giving any name to the variable, make sure that it starts at least from underscore or alphabetical letter. Okay, understood? This is the first rule. And second rule is variables cannot start with number. So when you say I have to name a variable, let's say I'll name this variable 1var. Instead of var1, I'll say 1var. Excuse me. So this is not allowed. This is also not allowed. Your variable name can contain the integer, but your variable name cannot start with integer. Understand this difference. Okay, this is the second rule. Third rule is name can be constructed using only alphanumeric character and underscore. So whatever variable name you are going to construct, or whatever variable name you are going to provide or write, it can contain numerics like numbers, or it can contain alphabetical letters like VAL, whatever you have. It can contain underscores, but it cannot contain special characters like hash, @ exclamatory, so or tilde. This cannot be used while constructing the variable names. So till the point we have alphabetical plus numeric plus underscore in our variable name, it is allowed in the Python. You can see Python accepted this, no error. Understood? Yeah. So now the next rule variables have is they are case sensitive. Now, what does it mean case sensitive? Suppose I have a variable called as sample and it contains value sample text. Okay, now I'll take the same name. Just what I will do, I will change the case of S. And I'll give the data as sample text 2. Now you can see these two are completely different variables. I have stored the value of sample text in sample and I've stored value of sample text 2 in sample starting with capital S. You can see these two are completely different and those two exist. Now when I say exist, that means if I do sample is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 and I again use the same thing, no case change, no case change. I again do the same thing and I say 5, 6, 7. Next time when I print sample, it will take latest one because whatever value we have stored here, this value overrides whatever value we have stored earlier. Understood? So this is like defining a variable multiple times. So this variable loses its earlier value and takes the new value. It's like, okay, the cashew jar, now I emptied the cashew jar and I put biscuits in it now. So cashew jar has now become the biscuit jar. Understood? Yeah. So this is the way and it is case sensitive. So though you can see the letters are the same, but the case should not be same if you are adding another variable. Understand and keep this in mind. This is very important when you are writing any variable. Let's say a is equal to 1 and a is equal to 2. So these two variables become different, though this is a and this is a, but their case is not same. That's why Python consider these two as different variable. Okay, yeah. And now coming to the next point is assigning. Now all these examples you have seen here, this is something like I am assigning something to something. I have assigned this value to this variable. I have assigned 1, 2, 3, 4 to sample. I have assigned 2 to capital A. So assigning also has some rules, like the variable rule. These must be followed when you do any kind of assignment, but it has certain rule, like assignment always happen from right to left. Assignment always happen from right to left. Keep this in mind. In Python, assignment happens from right to left. Okay, and you can assign. Now this is one specialty in Python. You can assign multiple values in single assignment. Now when I say ABC, commas is equal to 1, 2, 3, that means I am assigning 1 to A, I am assigning 2 to B, and I am assigning 3 to C. Let's see. Okay. So this is a Python specialty. You can assign whatever values you want, but make sure the values, whatever passing, the number of values matches number of variable names on the left side. Okay. The number of values matches number of variables left side. We have given 3 values here and we are assigning to 3 values. Suppose I do this. You can see there Python throws the error, not enough values to unpack. Now what is packing, unpacking? We will see it in next upcoming sessions. But first of all, you just see that it should match the number of values. Okay. Yeah. Now coming to the data types. Now we are seeing like, okay, we are assigning 1, 2, 3, 4 to sample. Let's take Newshell. Let's take Newshell. This is not field. Yeah. Let's take Newshell. Yeah. So we are seeing like we are assigning a lot of values to a lot of things, and we are doing this and we are doing that. But what these variables do really? Now, whenever you assign some values, suppose I have a variable called test, and I'm assigning some kind of string. So whenever I say string, string is alphabetical characters or numeric characters or anything which can be written here in between these two inverted commas. Okay, string has been presented this way in computer programming. Okay, yeah. So this is Python session. So you can see I have directly stored this value to test. Remember, focus to this point. These things are very important. They will come handy when you'll try to program Python. So these things will come handy, because whenever you will get the error, you will have most of the errors which are related to data and its type and so on. So all these points what we have covered this far are very important, and after the session also I will recommend you go and study on yourself. If you have any doubts, keep them until next session. Try studying, search online, you'll surely get something. Okay, so let's move forward. This is the test, and when I do test, now this is the variable. Okay, but what kind of variable is this? Okay, it holds some kind of data. So in Python, the variable becomes of that type which kind of data it stores inside it. So when I say type test, you can see it is str of class. It is classified as str. This is string. This is called as string. But when I say test 1 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, and when I say same thing, type of test 1, you can see class is integer now. Okay, this is good. That means whatever data we have provided and whatever data we have stored to test, Python automatically understood what kind of data we are passing, and it converted that variable into that kind of data. This is important point. Understand this. In C, in compiled languages, like people who are from computer background, for them, what if we write any code in C or C++, what we do is we do int var is equal to 1. That means we tell computer, we tell C language that okay, I am going to take a variable 1, I'm going to take a variable and we are going to store 1, and it will be of type integer. But here in Python, you don't have to tell to Python what it is. You just pass this data. You just pass this data and this variable becomes of that type. Okay. Now it has become an integer variable. Okay. Yeah. So in Python, we have several types. As you can see, we have integer, float, and complex number. This comes into number category. That's why they are clubbed in one point. Next data type is string. Next is list. We have tuples. We have dictionary. We have sets, and we have booleans. Okay. So we will cover these things in our next sessions. Now the time is 8:50 Indian time, and if you have any question, I request Humera to open the chat window as well as if someone wants to ask questions. Said bhai,
Surely. Just give me a moment, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Salil Bhai, for this wonderful beginning, I would say, with respect to the basics of Python. And I'm sure that, most of you present here, okay, you might have understood, the basics of the programming, Python programming. So can I take the questions now, Salil Bhai?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So Mr. Samarth is asking a question. I have PyCharm. Is it okay?
Yeah, fine. PyCharm is an IDE. So IDE is integrated development platform. So it is not really a Python software, but it is created for the development of language. So when you install Python software, like we installed python.exe, we downloaded it from python.org and then we installed it. This will be our Python base, our language, whatever interpreter, whatever actions we will be doing, that will be happening from python.exe, and PyCharm is just an on top of that. Okay, I'll let me show you that thing as well. So PyCharm is just kind of editor where you just write your code, and since it provides a lot of features, like before writing print, it says okay, you want to write print. It has some AI functionality built in it. So this is the PyCharm. So this way you can see your files stored here. You can see a lot of things here, and you can see the code here. So these are all using PyCharm. It gives pleasant eye. This is a dark background. So it is just an IDE, just an editor where you are editor. Yeah. Next question.
The next question is from Zohra Begum. She's asking a question. Hello, sir. While assigning the value, should we take care of space?
Assigning the values are it doesn't really require spacing thing. I mean, there are some standards, like as I said, suppose I define this variable one, var is equal to one. Okay, it executes, doesn't have any problem. And if I say space var is equal to space, it also works, doesn't matter.
Okay,
So,
I would request.
But considering this point, I would like to tell one more point. There are some set of standards which tell how you can write a beautiful Python code. It doesn't mean that this is not an error-less code. There is no error in the code, but it looks very bad. So there are some standards which says after you write the name, give one space, then write your assignment, then space, then pen. Yeah. Next.
Yeah, I would request all the participants to please, pose your questions in the Q&A box instead of chat. There are chances that, the chat gets lost in between. So the next question is Mr. Roshan Khan is asking, I have been working as a computer teacher for last 10 years. Can I get a chance in any corporate after learning Python? And his age is 32.
Python is very rapidly growing. I mean, few years back, like in 2013-14, it was worldwide ranking of 6 and 7. And right now, after 5 years and 6 years, you can see it is almost on top. It is the widely and most widely used language currently in the industry. You can use it from very small application to huge. And I think if you learn Python at good level, like intermediate or maybe more than that, there are surely chances that you will get opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities for Python programmers in the market. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is from Afzal Ansari. Don't we need an end of statement, something like a semicolon? Maybe he's asking, like, during programming, usually there is a semicolon at the end.
Yeah.
So in Python, don't we need it?
Like I explained, semicolon, the main reason Python developers who develop Python language, they excluded semicolon because they wanted their code to look beautiful. Like you can see earlier we wrote some code here. So this way you can see this looks very structured. If we remove this, this looks very structured way. This print statement exactly after this statement, and then if you have more statements inside this else statement, you have again this and then have structure. So in between, if we write this, and suppose someone who writes the code forget to add semicolon at the end, and if we compile this, then there will be an error. So they tried to make it more easy, and they tried they tried to show that Python code can look very beautiful, and that's why they excluded the second. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a couple of questions. I'll combine them. What if we don't set the environment variables during setup? That is, if we don't add the path, is that okay before starting?
I think there should not be any problem. I told you this because uh, when you open the command prompt, we are using ideally generally like this say, it does not require environment variables to be stored, or it does not require any kind of setting what we did earlier. But there are certain things when you develop any kind of Python applications, and there are ways when you run Python code through command line. For that, the Windows environment needs to understand this word. So there are, like when you write CD, so this is like a change script. If I do list, it says list is not recognized as internal or external command. So to let Windows know that we are using Python, we have to do that setting. In case if we develop something in command line, so this is like a complete setup, but it need not if you are just using the IDE.
Okay, so the next question is from Mr. Roshan Khan. My laptop is not supporting Python 3.8 version, so I've installed 3.4. Is that okay? And is there any difference between them?
There is always a difference between different Python versions. The Python developers try to add more and more features in newer versions. So definitely there is a difference, but it is not much difference. So currently Python 2.7 is deprecated. Python Software Foundation or developers of Python are not supporting Python 2.7 anymore. So they are completely focused on 3.0. So 3.4 is also okay. I would say no issues with that. But whatever new features are there, which are in 3.8, you will not be able to use that in 3.4. But I think the 99.9% should be okay. Just 0.1% where they add the new feature that will not be available with 3.4. Yeah.
Okay, so Mohammed Bari is asking, we have seen two windows. One is like command prompt and the other one where we did some kind of programming, not printing or mentioning variable. So what is that one? Both are
I didn't understand what.
basically, I think I mean, there were two windows.
Okay,
Maybe
this
he's
is one
talking about
window.
a
This
command
is called
prompt editor.
ideally. Okay.
Yeah, and the other one maybe the command prompt where you are
Command
trying
prompt.
to, set. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, so where we did some kind of programming, you were executing it, right? So he's asking like, what is the difference between that command prompt window and the other window what you have, wherein you wrote the code? Both the windows are same. Basically, they are not the same. Okay, command prompt is used basically to execute the functions, but to do the actual programming, this is the other window, the shell programming, wherein the other window is open.
I'll add one more point.
Ji.
This is kind of Python shell, as you can see, but this is more in a UI way, in a more sophisticated way. So this is the same thing what we do here. Like if we do print here, 1, 2, 3. So it does the same thing, but the only difference is first you have to enter into Python shell. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And you have to get
Yeah, firstly, I'm really thankful for taking our time to teach us. I have a doubt that sometimes we use equal to and sometimes double equal to. What is the difference between these two?
Okay, okay. So there is a very simple difference. We are going to take this in the next session also, but just overview I'll give. So when we assign something, when we assign var is equal to 1 to 3, we say we are assigning, and assignment happens with single equal. But when we say we are comparing, we use double equal. Suppose we have var is equal to 1 to 3, and we have var 2 is equal to 4, 5, 6. And when we say is var equal to var 2, we get answer as false. So this is comparison and this is assignment.
Okay. Mr. Afzal Ansari is asking, can we typecast variables in Python?
Yes, absolutely. We can typecast the variables. So as we say, we have already one variable var which has value 1, 2, 3. Now if I say str, this we are going to cover when we are covering the data types in detail in next session. But when we typecast, you have to tell the Python what you are going to convert. Like I am going to convert var into which. So I am going to convert it into str. So these are predefined names. Like str is predefined with Python. So here you just have to type like str and pass the variable value. So you can see integer 1, 2, 3 now has been converted to string 1, 2, 3. Okay, but vice versa you cannot. There are some rules and we will cover that. Like if s is equal to say Salim, my name, but when I say int s, this is not allowed because we can't really convert s to 1. There are some physical rule like real world rule. These do not apply to this kind of conversion. Yeah, but typecasting is possible and it is widely used. Yeah.
There's one question from Mubarak Hussain. He's asking, I am from telecom background and recently moved to the data analytics and working in the Power BI to create reports for the higher management in telecom company. My question is, how Python will get benefit related to data analytics in terms of Power BI or database linking?
Okay, so as you said, you are using you are into you are moving to data analytics. So Python is most widely, almost if there is something data analytics happening in the world, in total data analytics, Python is almost 90% used. So there are libraries like Pandas, NumPy, which are typically used for data analysis, data science. So you can go through these libraries, and there are different functions where you can open Excel sheet, you can fetch the data, you can convert the files, and you can do a lot of automation kind of thing. Yeah, so it is completely possible, and yeah, Python can be done. And more of it, like Python will make your work easy. Yeah.
Yeah, why did we use /n in one of the code line? What is the significance of /n?
Okay, /n. Now let's see. We are printing something. Okay, I'm printing. This is Python session. So when I say /n and when I execute this, you can see there is an extra line. So when we give /n, we ask Python not to consider this in printing. So don't see /n in the end. Instead, use this as an escape character. This character is escaped using this /, and now this has some meaning to it. Now if I write more code after /, this is Python session and this is first day. Now you can see there are two lines. So what this means enter, go to next line. Similarly, there are some escape characters, like when you see /t, this means tab. So it gives space, a tab equivalent space between two sentences. So there are several escape sequence you can search on internet. Those are very easy. These are just meant to pass to look your output good. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions, but then we'll take the last two because we are running out of time. Can we run the Python program in Linux operating system for the Oracle database?
We can run absolutely. Python is executable on Python has set up for every OS, every major OS like Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. So the Linux advantage is that you don't have to install Python. As soon as you set up your Linux and it is pre-installed, it comes with the Linux. Python is pre-installed, so you can definitely use Python with the Linux.
Okay, the last question is from Samarth. Is Python dependent on our laptop's core, like Core i3, i5?
Like I said, Python is a high-level language. It does not really see what is beneath. When I say beneath, that means it does not really care whether you are running on i3 or i7 or i5 or Core Studio or Quantum or some processor. It just says that whatever setup you are getting, it has to be same in every environment, whether you are in Mac OS, Linux, or Windows. Yeah, but there will be performance measure. Like if you are running i3 and if you are running some Python code, huge Python code, considerably big enough, your system will respond slow. Like this print, if I'm getting in suppose just in milliseconds, your computer might get in 0.5 seconds or more than that. So yeah, speed is dependent, not the functionality.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of other questions too, but then I can see one repeated question, so I'm forced to ask that. Sirajul Haq is asking, do you think Python is better than Node.js in terms of features?
I actually don't work with Node.js. Node.js is used for web development, and it has some different kind of operation set. I work on some different projects and where we don't use Node.js. So I cannot really tell you it is better or which one is better.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Salil Bhai, for this wonderful session we had. There are a lot of other questions too, but sorry, I cannot, take
Sorry,
all those
because we have a lot of
questions.
participants here, and we cannot
Yeah,
cover
okay,
everyone's question.
that's true. And then we really wish, we could answer those questions, okay, one by one. But next week when we meet, we will try to take as many questions as possible. So next session will be again on Thursday. The next Thursday, that is on 23rd. So I would, request that each and every one of you please spread the word and then join again. And also one closing remark that I would like to make is we usually don't disable the chat option for our participants. But then today we were forced to do that because there were a lot of distractions coming in with some irrelevant chats happening in between. So that would be a distraction to the other participants as well as to the speaker. So please respect the decorum of the speaker and focus more towards the webinar. So that way, we all can have a win-win situation for this 1.5 hour that we are taking out. Okay, so please remember that whenever you join any webinar, so please make sure that you're asking only relevant questions, because of few people we had to disable the entire chat for a while. So we hope that we don't get to repeat that next week. Yeah. Thank you so much, Salil Bhai, once again. Humera, do you have anything to
Thank
say?
you. And make
No, I
sure you are
think this,
practicing. Yeah, make sure you're practicing because we have considerably 1 week of gap. So make sure you're practicing well before coming to next session. Yeah.
all right. So it was a great session. Thank you, Salil Bhai. Thank you, Saeed Bhai, for taking Q&A section. So for today's lecture on Python programming, Alhamdulillah, we are done with today's topic, Introduction and General Syntax. We will be meeting again on 23rd July at the same time for the topic Data Types and Functions. To all the participants, it is fantastic to have you all on board for our session today. Attending these sessions will always benefit you in your career path. Team AMP Hyderabad has organized these sessions for you all exclusively so let's not miss this opportunity. to engage ourselves in our career building by learning this one of the most popular languages of data science field. So AMP conducts these sessions for you all to get benefited, as these sessions are extremely valuable and will help building your professional as well as educational careers. If any point of time you want to join us in our community work, please visit the link www.ampindia.org/joinamp. Don't forget to spread about us and our sessions in your network and let more people join us and get benefited by these free online learning sessions. See you all again on 23rd July at the same time, 7:30 p.m. I'm Humaira Kabir, signing off now. Goodbye for now. Thank you.